Kaiser Adolf I traveled back to Italy to resume his life as Wolfgang under his diplomatic asylum agreement he signed in 1961. At the time, if my registration details were processed, I became the only technically eligible child under the very strict constitutional monarchy of Germany great-grandchild rule. Before he heard about my parents, checked things over, and then traveled to Australia, Kaiser Adolf thought that if he died my Imperial Hohenzollern family of Germany was over. The theme was all through everything he was involved in prior to 1972, including the music. When he returned to his place of residence, he thought over the situation. My birth registration details were processed on the 26th of January, 1972, and a record for my birth, birthplace, home address, parents, etc. was added to the publicly available lists for births, deaths and marriages, Victoria, Australia. Kaiser Adolf fretted over it for a while, checking the publicly available registrar records to see if my name appeared and matched the details in his notebook. It was deeply serious to him. He checked the records in February 1972, and my birth registration details appeared as a new entry. It became clear to him I was technically eligible, no arguments. He settled down and went through what he would need to do. How to complete me becoming his rightful heir under the rules. The rules which all my imperial family members preferred. He was like a voiceover in my life constantly after I was born. There is always something weird about being revived by someone else from not breathing and no pulse. Some people become intellectually inseparable afterwards. Kaiser Adolf had that isn't reviving someone like that the coolest thing ever attitude afterwards, like so many other people who have done it. Kaiser Adolf had the means to actually put together documents naming me his heir correctly. His imperial seal dimatrix he hid in his cell for over 15 years was in his personal safe in Italy. He had last used it to wax authorized documents in October 1943, before he went missing from the hotel dinner in Berlin in December that year. There was only one problem: he needed to use his real name and signature on the documents, or they would not be valid, and that was not allowed under his Italian diplomatic asylum agreement. He thoroughly went through the proper legal scenario, as it was for him when he was made heir to his cousin Kaiser Wilhelm Hohenzollern II in 1903 when he was 13. He went through all the details, sketched them out, did flow charts, and jotted down what he needed to do to get it officially taken in by both countries called Germany. He thought over what building he owned at the time would be best to be my official imperial residence when the time came, if he abdicated or died. He went round and round with it, and always came back to the same conclusion. Wuelsburg Castle. In the end, it was the best choice security-wise and in good condition. He was not ignorant of life in Germany when he was a resident of Italy. In the end he decided he was going to do it and name me his heir, if Italian authorities gave him permission to use his real name and signature on the required documents. It was a genuine logical attempt to do the morally correct, responsible thing in a larger context than his own situation. If they did not give him permission, he thought he may have had to try to leave Italy and move elsewhere. He approached the Italian Secret Service and told them he wanted to name an heir to my German imperial family. He told them he had all means necessary, but had to use his real name and signature, or the documents would not be valid. Their Secret Service went away and had a gossipy conversation about the possibilities and then decided to let him do it. They sent someone back to him, who told him he could use his real name and signature to name an heir, provided he signed a new diplomatic asylum agreement with extra clauses added. The clauses stated he could only use his real name and signature on documents pertaining to his heir to my royal family. He went home and carefully wrote the documents, editing them several times until he was happy with them. Then decided to use paper and wax chosen to look like my eyes, blue, green, gold yellow, gold, red orange, red, and a bit of pink purple, and prepared them. He wrote the documents out in pencil in very formal script and made enough copies. Then went over them with ink. It took him days of work. When they were all ready, he signed his real signature, which he managed to get correct, and got his seal dimatrix out from his personal safe. He used the new wax available at the time. All you had to do was blob enough on the page and then seal it quickly and let it dry. He fitted together the pieces of his titanium imperial seal dimatrix he hid in his prison cell in Yugoslavia and guarded for over 15 years, blobbed molten modern wax onto the paper, and pushed his matrix into the bright red wax, which had been chosen to match the red in my eyes, remarkably similar to the red in his. There are a lot of similarities between my eyes and my great-grandfather's. It worked perfectly well. My great-grandfather then had a meeting with the Italian authorities again and laid down the details of what needed to be done. What the procedure was, what documents needed to be sent where, what he would keep copies of, and the details of the documents with an Italian agent. He gave that person a copy of the authorization documents with no signatures or seals, saying they could keep them for their records. He pointed out how serious it was, and the Italian intelligence agent involved promised never to tell anyone of it. The agent then went away and followed Kaiser Adolf's instructions. After he finished and placed the blanks in storage, he went out for a few beers. He went to a local pub where there were always people aware of who Wolfgang really was, but never said anything unless they were pretending to have a chat about faked history and pretending Kaiser Adolf was evil. He sat down at a table, and before he had finished his first beer, he had told everyone at the table all about it, including several people involved in an association football club in the German Bundesliga. When they returned to Germany with the gossip news, they immediately started saying there is an heir to the German imperial family now during matches. They won the Bundesliga that year. I became His Imperial Highness Prince Brian J. Webb the Hohenzollern and then immediately Crown Prince of the Constitutional Monarchy of Germany as well. I was 1 month old. Kaiser Adolf kept all the relevant documents and copies for me as well. Both Kaiser Adolf and myself as his new Crown Prince Brian were in and out of hospital over the next few years repeatedly. In most instances, if not all, directly due to attacks by others.